Samsung has always been a pioneer when it comes to foldables, with the original Fold in 2019 setting the bar and creating an entirely new category of devices. And after 7 generations of regular foldables, Samsung is set to finally release a trifold, similar to Huawei's Mate XT, that I also had a chance to play with for a while. In fact, Samsung's new trifold was displayed by Samsung at APEC 2025 in Korea, and its release seems to be imminent. Okay, so if you're already hyped for it, let me hype it up even more for you with number 1, the release date. As according to Ice Universe, it is set to come out in 2 weeks on December the 5th. I'll be honest, this caught me completely off guard, as we usually get leaks and rumors way ahead of a product's release. Even 6 to 12 months before the official release, not a few weeks. But I'm not complaining, and I'm generally super excited for Samsung to finally enter the trifold market. So let's get right into the specs, with the most important one being, of course, the display. Or shall I say displays, since this is the trifold, so it will have 3 states. The phone state, which is set to have a 6.5-inch display, probably very similar or even identical to the Galaxy Z Fold 7's outer screen, also at 6.5 inches. Then we've got the middle screen, which is set to be around 8 inches, again, very similar to the Galaxy Z Fold 7. And then we've got the big screen, the tablet screen, which is rumored to be at 10 inches when completely unfolded. Basically giving you 3 devices in one: a phone, a mini tablet, and then a full-sized tablet for watching content, which is so cool. Drop a like down below, by the way, if you're also excited for the new Samsung trifold. So, 3 devices in one. At least that's what you would think when you think of a trifold. However, it won't actually be like that. You see, all the recent leaks and even this actual image seem to show a G-style fold rather than an S-style fold, which means that we will only have 2 states, fully folded and fully unfolded, no in-between state. Now, the main outer screen is set to reach 2600 nits of peak brightness, same as the Z Fold 7, while the inner screen could have around 1600, so dimmer than the Z Fold 7's inner screen, but still more than usable. Now, this wasn't confirmed, but my guess is that these displays will also have 120Hz, always on, and a variable refresh rate. All great features that Samsung's displays are known for. But you know what else Samsung's displays are also known for? They make our wallpapers look even better, especially our latest Chrome Currents pack by Bold. This one simply looks stunning. Imagine using this on a large tablet. And all of our wallpapers are in full 8K, one by one, and made by our designers. So you can check out wallpapers for free by using the link below or by searching it on the App Store or the Play Store. So what about the overall design of the trifold? Well, the Samsung Galaxy trifold will likely differ from Huawei's Mate XT and how the hinges work. You see, the Huawei Mate XT only had one display technically, the inner screen, the big folding one that would kind of fold like an S shape. Now, Samsung, on the other hand, is said to be using 2 displays, the big inner folding screen and then also an outer display as well. So essentially a G-shaped fold similar to Samsung's Flex G prototypes that I saw at MWC earlier this year. The advantage to such a design is that when you're using it in phone mode, that inner screen will always be protected. However, with Huawei's design, when you're in phone mode, that inner display would be exposed on both the front and then also the side. And we all know that foldable screens are extremely sensitive. You can literally damage one with a fingernail if you press too hard. So having that screen be exposed means that if you drop it or you bump it into anything, your whole phone would then be dead. However, as I mentioned before, Samsung's design does come at one big disadvantage, which is that you only get 2 states instead of 3. So you won't have that semi-folded 8-inch display mode like with the Huawei Mate XT. But back to the design. The thickness of the phone is said to be around 14 millimeters when folded, which is pretty thick, especially compared to the new Galaxy Z Fold 7 at 8.9, although keep in mind that this is a trifold after all. However, Huawei managed to get the thickness down to 12.8 millimeters, which is extremely impressive for a trifold. And honestly, even that felt like a brick when I was using it. Of course, that was also due to its weight, At 298 grams, the Huawei Mate X-T was very heavy, and Samsung's Trifold is rumored to weigh about the same. So if that felt like a brick, then Samsung's Trifold will be an even brickier brick. Now, similar to Huawei's Mate X-T, the Galaxy Trifold's 3 panels will also differ slightly in thickness. According to Evan Blass, the panels measure approximately 3.9 millimeters, 4 millimeters, and 4.2. And again, this is extremely impressive. Keep in mind that the dual fold Z Fold 7 had a thickness of just 4.2 millimeters. And that already felt surreal. So having a side that is less than 4 millimeters will generally feel incredible, just like the Huawei Mate X-T did in its fully open form factor, which honestly felt like I was holding the future in my hands. It felt like something that shouldn't be possible to have, like such a thin tablet in my hands. Of course, the story changed when it was fully folded. So what about the cameras? Well, with the Galaxy Z Fold 7, Samsung finally added their flagship 200 megapixel main camera to the Z Fold lineup. And the good news is that they're set to be adding it too to the Trifold. While there haven't been any other details about the other 2 cameras, the triple camera setup on the back could possibly match the one found in the Galaxy Z Fold 7. And indeed, if we take a look at the images, yeah, the panel looks basically the same as the Z Fold 7. Yeah, the zoom was not that great on the Z Fold 7. It doesn't seem like this will be changing on the Trifold, which is a bit of a shame, especially considering the price. But of course, to keep the form factor so thin, something has to give. So what about the performance? Well, here, the most likely chip is the brand new Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, which is just a performance monster. Now, I don't think that Samsung would add their own Exynos chip to this incredibly high-end device, although we have seen some leaks that the next-gen Exynos will be more powerful or just as powerful as the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. As for the storage and the RAM, this is likely to be paired with 16 gigs of RAM and either 512 or 1 terabyte of storage options. But if you have so much performance and such a big screen, you'll also need a massive battery to back it up. And this is where I was expecting a bit more, as the leaks are saying that we will only have a 5600 mAh capacity split into 3 cells. Now, this capacity would actually be identical to Huawei's Mate X-T. But that phone is over a year old, so I was really hoping and expecting Samsung to push things a bit further, perhaps with a silicon carbon battery. But then again, this is a first-gen product likely to only be produced in extremely small quantities, around 20 to 30,000, so, I think it's fine for that. Furthermore, if you compare the 5600 mAh battery capacity to the latest Z Fold 7, which had a super small 4400 mAh capacity, it's still an improvement. And that phone was actually pretty good in terms of how long it lasted. So this should be, I would say, about the same, since we do have that even larger screen. And apparently that 5600 mAh capacity is only the typical capacity, with the actual capacity being around 5437 mAh, according to Evan Blass once again. Samsung usually does this with their devices, marketing the typical capacity and not the actual real capacity. Charging, on the other hand, is set to remain at 25 watts according to certification tests, just like the Z Fold 7, which is extremely disappointing, especially for such a large battery. And that's even more shocking when you take a look at Samsung's mid-range A56, for example, which supports 45 watts of charging. That's a $350 phone, by the way. Now, I'm no battery expert, but it seems like faster charging should be possible, especially with the capacity being split across 3 cells. Like other manufacturers such as Oppo are already doing this. If you take a look at their batteries, they're split between 2 cells in series, which allow them to have something like 100-watt charging speeds. But what do you guys think? Do you think 25 watts is acceptable in 2025 for an extremely high-end and expensive device like this? Let me know down below. What do you guys think? Speaking of expensive, let's talk about that price, which is said to be around 4.4 million Korean won, or around $3,000. Now, if you're wondering why the price is quoted in Korean won, well, that's because this is very likely to be a Korean-only device, just like last year's Z Fold Special Edition. Now, of course, this doesn't completely rule out the device from ever being launched in the US or globally. There seem to be multiple model numbers popping up, which usually hints at different markets, such as Korea, US, a global version as well. But yeah, at launch, I do expect this to be a South Korean device only. And as I mentioned at the start of this video, Samsung's Trifold is set to come out on the 5th of December, and that's this year, not in 2026. And I'm personally extremely excited about it. Don't get me wrong, I loved how innovative the Huawei Mate X-T was, but I just wasn't a fan of its software. Plus, the lack of Google services made it pretty much unusable for me. However, Samsung's Trifold may be the first trifold that I'll finally be able to daily drive. Hopefully Samsung will send me a review on it once this is officially launched. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below. And subscribe if you want to see more updates and more videos on the Samsung Galaxy Trifold as soon as it gets announced. Check out our Apple wallpapers for some awesome designs. I'm Daniel, this is ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.